What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to a brand new video where we will discuss Unai Emery's sacking as the Arsenal manager. So Arsenal are now just like another club, every other club in the Premier League. When things are tough, and this is how business and football works, the manager is the first person out of the door, and Unai Emery has been an absolute disaster at Arsenal. Let me know, who do you think should replace Unai Emery as the next Arsenal manager, especially if you are an Arsenal fan. Leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Would you welcome Pochettino as the new Arsenal manager? Because I actually have seen quite a few Arsenal fans saying that they would welcome Pochettino with open arms, and it's just incredible that 2 or 3 weeks ago, who would have thought that Arsenal and Tottenham could sack their managers? Well, you know, the writing was on the wall because they both had terrible results. Unai Emery hasn't won in 7 games, and the fact that they played atrociously against Frankfurt at home, where the Emirates looked like half empty. I heard that there were only 20,000 people at the game, which is very unusual, but the fans had just had enough. They were protesting by not going to the game. And also the fact that they were 2-1 down, and instead of bringing on Lacazette or Pepe, the £72 million winger, they brought on Lucas Torreira, a defensive midfielder. It's like Emery wanted to get sacked. I just don't understand his thinking. So Pochettino hasn't won a trophy at Tottenham, but if you look at how much Tottenham spent since 2014, they are actually bottom of the top 6 clubs in a overall spending on players by a country mile. They spent like £380 million, and the next club, who is 5th, I think is Arsenal, with like £540 million. So I think that Pochettino massively overachieved at Tottenham. Don't forget that Tottenham were like an almost club under various previous managers. They were always like a top 6 team, challenging sometimes for Champions League places. They only finished in the Champions League places once before, or twice in like 10 years. And Pochettino made them a regular Champions League club. Despite his first season, where he finished, I think, 5th, every other season he finished either 2nd and challenging for the title, and he almost won the title when Leicester incredibly won the title. And I think that, you know, Pochettino is actually a good shout to be the next Arsenal manager. But Pochettino is a man of dignity, and he previously said that he would never manage Barcelona because he was an Espanyol player and an Espanyol manager, and he also probably wouldn't manage Arsenal because he was a Tottenham manager. He wouldn't do that to the Tottenham fans. But it's an interesting theory to talk about. Mikel Arteta and Massimo Allegri are the other top candidates. Of course, Mikel Arteta is the assistant manager of Pep Guardiola at Man City, but Allegri could be a decent manager for Arsenal, but he's not playing exciting attacking football. His Juventus team was pretty defensive, but he actually achieved great success at AC Milan. And I think Unai Emery is just, this shows that he's not a great manager. With Sevilla, he won the Europa League 3 times in a row, and that looks on paper a great achievement, but Sevilla almost always ended up in the Europa League because they failed to qualify from the Champions League group stages, and they have fallen down into the Europa League, and that's where they went on these great runs. And it's brilliant winning 3 Europa League titles in a row, but against in the La Liga against other teams, Sevilla wasn't great. They didn't always finish in the Champions League places, and at Arsenal, the Arsenal football just looked very boring, very unimaginative. For the first time in like 20 years, Arsenal isn't a team exciting to watch. It's not a great watch. They are struggling big time. They lost to teams like Leicester very, very easily, and actually some teams like Watford and Southampton, who are struggling in the relegation zone in the Premier League, they played Arsenal off the park. Southampton could have scored 5 or 6 goals at the Emirates, so it's clear that Unai Emery lost the dressing room. And what do you expect when Unai Emery chose his Arsenal captain by letting the players vote for it and letting the players choose the captain? There's no leadership qualities there for Unai Emery, and I'd never rated him as a manager. I wasn't afraid of what the great things he would do at Arsenal, because look at his failure at Paris Saint-Germain. He had the most expensively assembled team, one of the most expensive teams in world football, and he finished second to Monaco in the French league, which is an astonishing achievement. And yes, that Monaco team had Bernardo Silva, Mbappe, Fabinho, other exciting players, Thomas Lemar. But still, Paris Saint-Germain also achieved the incredible feat of winning the first leg in the Champions League 4-0 and still going out to an admittedly great Barcelona side. But losing the return leg 6-1, that's also on Unai Emery's wall of shame, if you like. And I think that Unai Emery should have gone like a month ago. And this is where I think Arsenal will regret not sacking Unai Emery earlier. The Arsenal fans were fed up at the end of the season, where they had the top 4 in the palm of their hands. They had a brilliant run of games, and they lost to Crystal Palace and other teams. They lost to Crystal Palace at home, and they missed out on the Champions League by 1 point. They couldn't win a run of games which was on paper very, very easy for Arsenal. And even though Tottenham's form nosedived at the end of the season, Arsenal still couldn't finish in the top 4. And then in the Europa League final, they put in one of the worst performances of Arsenal of the last 20 years. That's not an exaggeration. That's Arsenal fans also said that. And they lost to their arch rivals Chelsea 4-1 and getting absolutely destroyed. So Unai Emery's tenure of Arsenal manager wasn't going to be remembered, really. Maybe it will be remembered, but all for the wrong reasons, all of the disastrous performances. And also, since Arsene Wenger, since he left Arsenal have been rebuilding and have been in turmoil. Their recruitment, the players that they signed, they were never good enough. They didn't strengthen the defense and the midfield, 2 key areas where Arsenal were really lacking. I mean, they strengthened it, but they didn't strengthen it enough. And also the players probably stopped playing for Unai Emery, because the way that they didn't try in the last few weeks, the way that they lacked passion, they lacked desire, they lacked intensity. And Arsenal fans have to be worried now, because all the big managers are taken. And if had they sacked Unai Emery a month ago or just 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mourinho would have been available. And Mourinho, if he goes to Arsenal, it's a completely different story. And I think that even though some Arsenal fans didn't want Mourinho at the club, I can understand why, because of his personality. You have to look at the bigger picture. Which big manager will want to go to Arsenal right now? At the moment, Freddie Ljungberg, their former player and their Arsenal legend, takes the interim manager role. But even Arsenal, in their statement, said that they are looking for a permanent manager, probably a big name appointment. But maybe Allegri is available right now, but all the other names are already taken. Mourinho and Luis Enrique, they were available like a month, 2 months ago, but now they are in brand new jobs. So Arsenal really missed the boat with this sacking. I think the timing is all wrong. They should have sacked Unai Emery at the end of the season, or just a month and a half ago. And I think Luis Enrique would have been the perfect appointment for Arsenal, because he played brilliant silky football at Barcelona, but they missed the boat with him. He's now, I think, the new Spain manager. And also Mourinho, that is a massive regret for Arsenal, that they waited too long basically, and now Mourinho went to Tottenham. So the big question is, like, what does the future hold for clubs like Arsenal and Manchester United, who also could sack their manager? I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would leave very soon as well. Where do these big clubs go from this very, very difficult situation? Because at the moment, Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, and even Leicester City look a much better team and a much better squad than Arsenal and Manchester United. It's a very, very long way from the Premier League years where Arsenal and Manchester United were dominating the league, and every year you would know it's either Arsenal or Man United who wins the league. You probably know every season in the last like 4 or 5 years that it's Arsenal and Man United who are definitely not winning the title, and it's a question of, can they finish in the top 4? They are both Europa League teams. And the fact that Arsenal lost to Frankfurt and Manchester United lost to Astana away from home just showed how far these two clubs have fallen. So it's going to be very, very interesting what happens next with these clubs. I think Nagelsmann could be another manager that Arsenal should look at. But would Nagelsmann leave Leipzig team who are in red hot form? They are very close to the top in the Bundesliga, and Leipzig just made history a few days ago by qualifying for the first time in their history to the Champions League knockout stages, and also with one day game to go. So Arsenal, I think, sacked Unai Emery 1 month or 1.5 months too late, because even if they appoint Allegri, which on paper is an exciting appointment, I don't think he's the right guy. And I also heard that Allegri was interviewed before for the Arsenal manager's job. When they were replacing Arsene Wenger, they interviewed Allegri and Unai Emery and other managers, and Allegri basically demanded a set amount of transfer funds to be readily made available so he can bring in his own players, and the Arsenal board said, no, we are not having that. And he didn't, according to some people, he didn't come across well in the vetting process, in the interview process. So let me know what they think should Arsenal do at the moment. I think they should appoint Allegri and just hope for the best, but it's ultimately down to which players will they sign. And that is a big January transfer window coming up, because Arsenal and Tottenham at least will have new managers out of the big clubs in the Premier League, and potentially even Manchester United. And these clubs need new players if they want to have any chance of finishing in the top 4, because at the moment Chelsea and Leicester are absolutely flying in the Premier League. And of course Liverpool and Manchester City are just so far better than these two clubs. So it's a big January transfer window coming up as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.